Okay, so this one's going to be on another sort of mystery that I've always been quite interested in. Is ancient giants. Now, stay with me. I'm not talking about like the biblical 30 footers or like, you know, these things that you'd see in a film or in fantasy or in, you know, in, like I said, like the Bible and stuff like that. I'm talking about like a race of people who were, you know, their average height was, you know, quite a lot bigger than ours, maybe, you know, 9, 10 foot kind of thing. Now, maybe it sounds far-fetched, but there is evidence in history of other, you know, of other humans. There is other evidence of like, you know, sort of like pygmy type people, you know, like so people who are smaller depending on where they grew up. I.e., if you live on an island, I think something called island dwarfism. So like, you know, you put an elephant on an island and it will shrink over time, and that's happened to people. Potentially, if we have a lot of space and a lot of food, you know, could there have been bigger people? You know, there is, you know, throughout history, we keep finding other humans and that we didn't realise existed. So potentially, could there have been a race that were bigger? Now there are reports of it, sort of historical. I don't know if historical records is the right word, but there's like newspaper articles. There's, you know, it's one of the things. If you go diving into it, there's a lot of nutters out there. As with everything, they'll tell you there was 30-foot people, and there's people who are obsessed with these sort of mountains and big stones that look like what would be the word? Is it putrefied? I'll have to check that out. But you know, basically giants have turned to stone, and it's like it gets into that. But I'm not into that. But the idea that we could have had a race of people that were just, you know, a bit taller, I can dig that. You know, we look at a lot of the old structures like the megaliths and stuff. They're big, aren't they? You know, very fucking big, and we still don't know how they did it. And there's a good chance if you look at the stuff like what Graham Hancock's talking about, that there was, you know, technology we just, and you know, he got bright insight as well. He's a cool dude, puts lots of cool stuff on. But there's a lot we don't know about history. It seems like history goes back a lot further than we realise. It seems like humans have been potentially more advanced than we are, just in a different way in the past. So I think there's a lot about history we don't know. We keep finding out more and more and more. You know, a good analogy I see was that there's things we found in history that look like, you know, almost like drill bits and boreholes and things like that. And we didn't know what they were until the Industrial Revolution. So people were finding these things, you know, a few hundred years back, and they were like, I don't know what these are. It was only when we invented the technology we were like, oh, that's what that is. So I think like we could be looking at stuff now and we just don't have a comprehension of it because we've not invented that technology yet. I digress. Ancient giants. I believe there was a documentary on Discovery about it. You know, these people who went looking for like evidence of them. There's this story of this cave, and I've read this one a lot where the Indians did battle with them. And I think they trapped her in this cave, and I think they smoked them out, something like that. I think this was meant to be a race of sort of pale ginger giants. And I believe the ancient Native Americans, like they have legends of, you know, doing battle with these things, doing battle with giants and stuff, which I think is pretty cool. I will say that I noticed Graham Hancock made reference to giants a couple of times in his series, not saying that there was giants and they existed, but just to the people that, you know, the legends did state giants, and he was just like, well, you know, maybe he just meant giants in terms of the technological evolution that they had, the technology that they possessed, the knowledge that they possessed, the giants in that way, but not physically. I believe if Graham did believe that there was something, you know, i.e. giants, a race of, like, a lost race of humans that were a lot bigger, I don't think he'd talk about it openly because it's took him so long to get to it. I think if he had good evidence he would, but I don't think he's even going to speculate because it would harm the progress he's already made, and he's made such good progress. You know, I love like the podcasts I watch with him and stuff, and talk about the ancient history and stuff with Joe Rogan. It's fucking amazing, and it's just kickstarted a whole other realm of exploration. I guess maybe this is, you know, that's what's kickstarted me to do this, because the ancient giant thing, something it's just fascinating me because, like I was talking about, you know, big cats the other day. I feel like this is one that it could be real. And again, I don't mean like the 30 footers, these huge things. I just mean that there was people bigger than what we are now. You know, the average person used to be a lot smaller. And I suppose then if you got the freak who was like 7 foot, they would seem like a giant. So I get that. You know, we do have evidence of large people, you know, gigantism and stuff, so there's that. But this isn't talking about one-offs. This is talking about like tribes and races of people. So we go into like the evidence for it. So my understanding of the evidence, and as I've looked into it over the years, has been it's sketchy at best. So-called, there was a race of mound builders in the Americas, and these mound builders, a lot of them were giants, and the bones were found, their artefacts were found, and the Smithsonian took a lot of these artefacts and bones, and they went missing. Now, I'll be honest, actually, it's too convenient, isn't it, that, oh yeah, they just hid them, it's a conspiracy. Why did they hide it? I get it, academia, archaeology, all these things, they're almost like a belief system, aren't they? They don't feel very scientific to me. It's like someone forms an opinion, they do a lot of work on that opinion, and write a book, make a career, and they're not going to deviate. And if anyone challenges it, they're in a position of power and influence, and they can stop that person, and they can discredit that person, i.e., Graham Hancock. So it's plausible in that respect, but it's very convenient. Now, what's made me kind of rethink this is I watched that dude from Boneyard, so Boneyard, Alaska, who's got that bit of land where he's finding all these like Ice Age animals, all these mammoth tusks and all that. And he talks about the Smithsonian, was it losing a lot of stuff that was his, that come from his property? And it sounds like they've just chucked him in a river. In a river? So that's it. And these things would have gone, again, at the time, gone against the narrative. They would have gone against, like, oh, that we didn't believe those animals existed there and stuff. So it is plausible. So for me, it's plausible that they could have maybe done that. Now, again, but in terms of actual concrete evidence, there's not really, there's just stories from, again, I'll be looking into this as I go over this video. I will look into it, and if I find anything that's compelling, I'll throw it over the top in a picture or a video. But generally it's hearsay, it's people's interpretation. Now there is old newspaper articles, and chances are it could just be people measuring things wrong. Technology's advanced than that. So yeah, I am sceptical. I'm not this lunatic who thinks there's giants walking the earth, but I'm definitely open to the possibility that it was a race of humans that were bigger than your average human. And there's something to it. There seems to be a lot of, around the world. So around the world, there's different legends. Britain was so-called built by a race of giants. I believe there is tools and stuff that have been found. I can't remember if it was Wales. Again, I'll throw it up. But there was axes found that were just huge. Far bigger than any man could wield. And you're like, well, who did he make them from? There's biblical stories, and yes, we know the Bible's sort of romanticised, and it's someone's interpretation. It's used to teach lessons and stuff like that. But again, they're in there, and that's meant to have been pieced together from older texts and older legends and older stories and passed down. So yeah, maybe there is. Maybe some survived for a while. Maybe some clinged on, and there was the odd pockets of them and things like that. I just found that then interesting. The fact that the world could have been so much different. I'm not saying like Lord of the Rings tackle, but it could have been a lot different than we think it was. That there could have been giant people and average sized people and small people, and maybe hairy people. You go into the legends of Bigfoot and stuff like that. Yeah, I just think and I suppose there's people talk about. There's a story of one where it was found in a cave in Afghanistan and it was in stasis, and they killed it and fought it. I've even seen a video where they reckon they're working with the military. They found these giants and they now work with them. There's this video of this giant dude with a load of other sort of military personnel going into a building. It gets wild, like everything. It gets wild. There's this conspiracy and blah blah blah. There's people talk about them existing in Earth, loads of mad stuff. But for me, I focus on that we have found other sort of human type beings that were of different sizes, different proportions, different skull shapes, all these types of things. So why not one that was just a bit taller on average? Maybe a lack of resource, you go for an ice age, they need more food, more calories, and they just weren't suited to it, and they died off. It's like when the meteor hit, dinosaurs all went, didn't they? And the mammals survived, but these were mammals that lived underground, all that type of stuff. So yeah, interesting. But yeah, so that was today's little one. I'll leave it there. I'm going to throw some stuff up with this video, and I'll probably do a bit of digging while I'm doing it, and it'll probably be an educational experience for me too. But yeah, it's a mystery. But I think it's one that there could be something to. Bye bye.